That's cool.
Because you can't get them over here.
That's nice. So. Hello, everybody. So we're now live. We're going to take a couple of minutes just to kind of get ourselves settled. And if you are a subscriber, of course, to the YouTube channel, you will have got a notification that we are now live. But we're just going to take 3-4 minutes just to kind of like chill out, raise a pint,
indeed,
and start the evening proper.
As you mean to go on.
Start as we mean to go on. And also do a bit of advertising for our own individual efforts. I'll tell you what, I'll let you go first. Do you want to just kind of like pimp yourself?
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, I know I'm always very reticent to do that, but I think I might force myself to do that. Well, I mean, I guess I've been on the show twice already. Mm-hmm. So I'm Joel Meadows. I'm the editor-in-chief of Tripwire magazine. I'm also one of the main programmers and producers for the Portsmouth Comic Con. I'm also a freelance journalist, photographer.
Don't do the full intro. We'll save that for the main show.
Yes. So maybe
I mean, just like send someone somewhere that you feel that they deserve to go.
Well, I think they should check out tripwiremagazine.co.uk.
There you go. He's getting it. You're getting it.
And PortsmouthComicCon.com.
Excellent stuff. Hello there, Leanne. How are you? Welcome along. And for myself, 1 or 2 people have noticed that, yes, the Convention Collective is now up and running. You can go to conventioncollective.com and collective.co.uk because they both head in the same direction. At the moment, it is only 3 sections of the site live, which is Sandbox, which is a pop culture site which has been created by Dan Berry, but there's all sorts of stuff on there from
it's looking good.
Leanne has done a cracking bunch of her picks, although that could get very interesting considering that her first picks post was of the stuff that she bought.
Okay.
Except since that post, I have then been sending her all the preview links. So she's been now getting stuff from Image and Boom, and so her picks may get growing. Her picks will get. Yeah, she may be doing like 1 post every fortnight to get through all the comics that I'm sending her. So it's been a lot of fun. So that's do check out Sandbox. If you go to conventioncollective.com/sandbox, it's its own dedicated page. Likewise with Mark Serby, if you go to conventioncollective.com/Mark Serby. So yeah, they're all individual pages for themselves. At the moment, the convention stuff isn't there. The calendars aren't there. The events listings aren't there. I'm trying to work out how to build it. As the months go on, that which is on the site at the moment will get moved slowly down the page, and the convention stuff will take over because there's lots to talk about in terms of stuff like New York, Repop, Showmasters, all the things that we want to get into. So there we go. But we've got people listening and jumping in. Thank you very much indeed. We've got 60 seconds. What else can we talk about? What else can we send somewhere?
What else?
Down the Tubes.
Yeah. John Freeman does a wonderful job.
We could talk about
DownTheTubes.net. John is a great advocate for British comics.
Very much so.
And he's done it for a long time, and we are very grateful he's out there.
Absolutely. And I'm also going to pimp bleedingcool.com, considering they need all the help they can get at the moment.
Well, maybe.
Especially with their new editor-in-chief in place.
Please send help.
Please.
Sorry.
Something like that. Excellent stuff. But as soon as that clicks around the top of the hour, we'll dive in. And we'll crack on. Once again, we're going to be talking about the badge sale. So do let us know of any of your stories about your efforts. I mean, it was a lot of people coming up short with what they wanted, but we'll get into that as we go into the rest of the show.
Hunger Games? Are we having that next time? Do you think maybe some sort of
something a little bit physical,
some sort of private combat, perhaps in
it could happen. Could happen. Right. Welcome along. This is Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. Except I'm not in San Diego. I'm in the delightful. It's fabulous. Today is gorgeous. Yeah. The fabulous Kendal,
the sunny climes of Cumbria,
in Cumbria, in the Lake District. And I'm not drinking a cup of tea. I am drinking a rather nice locally brewed
cider. And I'm drinking a stout. So
there you go.
To your good health, sir.
Too kind. Thank you very much indeed. Right. So we're going to be getting into everything Comic-Cons, culture, and all the news of the last 7 days. And we're also going to be talking about why we're in Kendal, which is the Lakes International Comics Art Festival. We were talking to the hosts of the podcast on last week's show as a kind of preview to this, and they kind of talked about all the various things that people can see and experience here at the show. And you've gotten the most out of that, because you've been here for the whole weekend. Very quickly, this is Joel Meadows from Tripwire magazine, and you, like I say, you've been here for the whole duration.
Yes, I have.
So you got in on Friday.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, how's it been? I mean, obviously, the overriding thing
is the weather.
Has been the weather, and it has been particularly
horrendous.
It's been horrible,
apocalyptic yesterday.
Dive in.
But I have to say that 6th year at the Lakes, they've always done an impressive job. Julie and her amazing team of people. I'm afraid I don't know the other people's names, but
certainly a sister,
of course, Sharon,
yes, John Freeman as well.
John is a fabulous supporter of this show, and he does a lot of great work. So again, it's in Cumbria for the non-UK residents. Cumbria is in the northwest of England, almost in the not quite the Scottish border, but the county below.
Heading in that,
in that direction.
If you've gone to Carlisle, you've gone too far.
But it's a stunningly beautiful place, and the Lakes, for the 6th year, have done a very impressive job. They've got some of the best British talent, a lot of great European creators, a number of Canadians. I
mean, who's been the kind of like looking through the guest list? Who's been the ones that have been kind of that jump out at you?
Well, I mean, to be honest, they've been very lucky. They've had Charlie Adlard as a patron of the show, and of course as the comics laureate, and now the former comics laureate.
Indeed. I know he's got 4 months.
He's got 4 months.
He's got 4 more months.
But Charlie is obviously incredibly proactive. I went down to the Tap yesterday where he did his signing, and he's a great ambassador for comics, a great ambassador for the Lakes. Obviously, he's great. John Wagner, I mean, God, one of the legends of British comics, and with the very sad news about Carlos Square in the last couple of weeks, sadly we lost.
It's got to be said. I mean, I went down and spoke to him, and I brought it up, and it did look like he was about to break up. It's still very raw. It's understandable. Well,
they were close, and as I said, but John is a top man and a fabulous creator. Frank Quietly, who's not been to the show before. Ian Rankin yesterday, he was only here for 1 day, but the man is a fabulous writer, a very talented crime writer, and a huge comic fan. And I went to see his panel with him and John Wagner, and fascinating stuff talking about crime and crime comics.
Cool.
So there's been a lot of stuff. Traces of Great War, this wonderful book they've published about the First World War with just a plethora of amazing creators. Everyone from Sean Phillips to Ian Rankin to Charlie Adlard again. I have to say there's a lot to see here. And
I think the one thing that always, I mean, this, by the way, is
the program. It's a rather hefty program.
The tome of a program, which has got all of the listings in it. It's quite a big thing. But it says a lot about the actual number of rooms that are available. The main theatre, the Malt Room, the
Shakespeare Centre.
They haven't done so much in here this year.
They've done the big panels here.
They have, but the last year or the last time I was here, which is 2 years ago,
yes,
they did lots of individual panels.
Yes,
that's
very
rooms,
true.
And they kind of have dialed back on that. And I was actually thinking of asking you what you felt about the amount of individual attractions. I mean,
it's interesting. Programming is, as someone who's now done one show myself, programming, you have to find a real balance. You don't want to have too many panels because, as we found, they're not quite as well attended. So you want to have I think they've got a good balance between wandering around the clock tower, which is where a lot of the traders were, and coming to the brewery and to other places to listen to the talks. So I think they have got a decent balance of program. It's really hard because you don't want to have too many panels, but you don't want to have too few.
Sure.
So I think they have got quite a good, and the Shakespeare Centre this year, they've got people set up for the first time. So upstairs where they used to have the panels for the Shakespeare Centre is now, well, it's obviously finished an hour ago, but up to 5 o'clock today, they had people setting up. And so they're playing with the formula. I mean, God, Lakes has done it for 6 years. And,
sure.
You know, I wouldn't, you know, they're incredibly experienced and they've done this a long time. So I think that they probably thought that it'd be better to have more trader space and to maybe focus in and have cut back on the amount of panels. And I think it was probably a good idea.
I think also just the panel rooms, I think, is what because at the end of the day, those small niche panels,
yes,
such as the ones where you had the kids upstairs doing kind of how
like character design,
exactly. And then you had there was a live draw as well.
Yes,
I think they kind of taken those from outside the brewery centre and moved them into other venues in the town so they're more accessible.
Yes, I agree.
Does that make sense?
I think so. I mean, there was the Stransky exhibition, which I admit I couldn't find, but that might be my shortcomings rather than anyone else, that the Etherington brothers put on. So there was that, and then there was the Bothy, the Scottish comic sort of area underneath the Shakespeare Centre.
Very quickly then, let's talk about the actual layout of Lakes, because it's very much modelled on the Anglais.
On like the European festival. Exactly.
When I have not been to Anglais.
I've been once.
You've been once, and when I've described Kendal or the Lakes International Comic Art Festival, it's a very last of the summer wine meets Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, in that it takes over different venues.
That's very true.
In the town, so it becomes more of a larger footprint.
Yes.
But it is based around this building
here, which is the Brewery
Arts
where the cinema is as well. Behind us,
absolutely, which had screenings of I Kill Giants. You had the
Simpsons movie with David Silver, which I completely missed, which I regret because the guy who was one of the main producers of the show, I completely missed David Silverman. And it's one of these things we shows and you think, bugger. After the fact, you go, blimey, I forgot he was there or she was there, and I never even got to speak to them. So it's just the nature of these things.
They always do a good job of that. I mean, the reason why they showed I Kill Giants is they've got Joe Kelly here, who introduced the thing. And I mean, like 2 years ago, it still remains the highlights of me going to any convention, which was seeing Justice League New Frontier introduced by
Darwin Cook, which
Cook.
Obviously was magnificent.
Wow. I mean, that's the kind of experience that you get.
I mean, the first year that I was here, you were here as well.
Sure.
I introduced Sin City, and I introduced The Crow.
Oh, right.
In the cinema to a select group of people, should we say. But it was still fun. It was still a lot of fun, and there's a really nice balance to this show, because the thing I like about it is there's no barrier between the creators and the fans.
Sure.
For example, where we are now at the Brewery Arts, you could very easily find the creators sitting, having a pint with the fans,
which they will be doing
later on in an hour or two.
So about an hour or two, once they've kind of
got back to their room,
rejuvenated from today's activity.
But I like that because it feels more welcoming to people, because people can come and if they're admirers of a particular creator, they can sit and chew the fat or just get introduced or meet, so that there isn't that barrier.
Sure.
It feels a lot more casual.
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah. I also feel that the tables are incredibly well curated.
Yes, that's true.
Which I put to the podcast host, and I said, who is the person who does that? Is it John?
Yeah.
Is it whoever? And so, no, it's not. It's Julie. Julie has... Because just to give you a bit of history on the festival, Julie is a exhibition organizer. She has done shows for various trades, at which point her son suggested, why don't you do a Comic Con in Kendal?
Yes.
And she went,
really?
I can organize an exhibition anywhere. I can do this. And she hit the ground running. Oh,
she was amazing for the first year.
The first year, it's just,
considering she hadn't put a comic show together before.
Incredible.
I mean, it was just
helps, of course, when you've got Brian Talbot in your back pocket
and Sean Phillips, and of course Mr. Freeman again.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got those that talent there, which will then bring their friends in and just pull everything together. So. Yesterday and Friday, obviously, incredibly wet.
Sadly, yes.
Did that put a dampener on the day? Because obviously people were either they're trying to get in, or they were also just trapped inside the buildings because it was just the rain was torrential. Did that actually make a difference with then people kind of like going to the tables, because they couldn't go anywhere? And
well, there was still a decent amount of footfall, but unfortunately I think it did have a negative effect, which is really sad because it was a great show. But when you've got weather which physically prevents you, I mean, I had to walk from the Charlie Adlard signing to my hotel, and I got completely soaked. And because of the rain, I'd never seen that much rain in one place at one time. And I was joking to you, I was expecting to see the Ark coming down the street at one point. So I think, the big problem is that, and this is the problem with any show, is that you're at the mercy of the weather.
Sure.
And the vagaries and the lakes.
When you have that kind of venue set up, when it is different venues
between different venues, there is a danger of that.
Sure.
But I mean, obviously, there was still obviously a lot of very positive people, but a lot of people, I think, they may have stayed away because of the weather, which is a real shame. But as I said, they could have done nothing about that, so obviously they just sort of carry on. But today, thankfully, has been a really beautifully sunny day.
It's been the weather that you absolutely
really warm
dream
for the show.
For
so I'm hoping that they've obviously had a bit of an extra boost with the Sunday. So I'm sure.
Well, it's when I was talking to the retailers and the traders, in the clock tower, which hopefully you caught on the Periscope. I did a kind of live walk around of the whole thing. Got it all done in about 12-15 minutes. So do go to the Periscope or on my track, check that out. And in talking to people, I found it interesting that they're saying that yes, it's been challenging because you've been talking about footfall and how it's been not so
little down. Possibly. I mean, I can't tell because I've not counted the numbers, so it's not fair for me to say.
But they then turned around and said, "But we've made the sales. We've made the sales. We've done really well. It's been a great vibe in the room. Everyone's been really supportive. Everyone's kind of chipped in and allowed us to feel welcome."
Yes.
And they absolutely rant and rave.
And actually, I have to say that the guy who does the Merrick comic, the guy from Liverpool, his name completely escapes me. It's a brilliant book. He's done it through Kickstarter, and I apologise for forgetting his name. But he had to drive home to Liverpool, which he was going to anyway, to pick up more stock because he's sold out on Saturday. So that proves that he had a fantastic show, and I'm sure that other people had an equally fantastic show. So it's not fair. The weather might have put a slight dampener, but I'm sure there were a lot of really keen fans who were there, and I'm sure everyone had a great day yesterday.
Absolutely. Please tell me that's a light turning on.
It's not lightning.
I actually thought that was lightning there.
Yes, it was. We're being struck by lightning because of the blasphemous things that Leonard said over the years.
It scared the shit out of me.
Wow, is that Zeus up there?
Oh, maybe. Who knows? In terms of the panels that you have seen,
yes,
what has stood out?
Well, I mean, I didn't check. I checked out 2 big panels yesterday. I went to the Ian Rankin and the John Wagner, and they were hosted by Alex Fitch, who's obviously an old hand from Resonance. And obviously, Ian Rankin is a great interview subject, and John is a consummate professional. So it was a really fascinating talk. It was about crime comics, and they were going to have another guest who sadly had to pull out of the show, but you wouldn't have known because obviously Ian is a great speaker, and John is a great guy, and Alex, you know, he did a great job of steering. He's an old hand, so
sure.
And then the Trace of the Great War, which is this really interesting looking anthology that they've done about the centenary of the First World War, with people like Sean Phillips, Charlie Adlard, Makiko, Ian Rankin, of incredible, a range of creators, real breadth of very different talent.
Sure.
So I mean, I mean, what was really funny, the Ian Rankin, if you know about this, but they didn't have the key for the door to get somebody in to physically break the lock, because the manager had gone off-site, and so for 5 minutes they had somebody literally with like I don't know what it was.
Is this where you sort of go to some of those comic creators that possibly had shady pasts? So yeah, before you became a comic artist, and when you broke into those cars,
locks,
when you broke into those cars,
handy talent.
Any of those skills you got to hand?
Transferable, but it was a funny moment, and you know what? It might have added 4 or 5 minutes to the running time. Probably not even that. So they handled it well, and the panel itself was great. And Trace the Great War, a lot of very different people. There was an Indian comic artist, a French comic artist, as I mentioned, Sean Phillips, a really great range of people talking about this fascinating subject. The editors on, and they brought a lot of different people together, a lot of very disparate creators together.
Do you think that the show is a little bit too niche, perhaps? Because I find it a very strange, disparate collection of people that are joined, because these are real artists.
Yes.
And they do, because you also get illustration, and then you also have your Viz and your children's, or at least your
like the Everington brothers, all that sort of young age.
You don't get your capes. I mean,
no.
There's not a cape to.
Well, Frank Quitely is obviously a super artist, but with a twist. I guess he's a very it's an interesting one. I mean, it's one of these things where you wonder, because it is so diverse. Maybe that's why it works, because it's such a mix. Because there's something for kids, something for people who like kind of indie cartoonists.
Sorry, that's a strange-looking tea that Leonard is drinking. Yes, it is. It's mine's
a brewed. It's a Rooibos, I believe.
Absolutely,
mine's a South African tea.
Well, this is a delightful Earl Grey
with a little bit of Darjeeling, of course.
Darjeeling on top, with milk and two sugar.
But of course. But no, I think the diversity is, in some ways, maybe it's its strength. I mean, the Viz guys are great. I saw them yesterday. They weren't just up. They were wandering. They did a panel, which unfortunately I missed, but they're always great value. Etherington Brothers are amazing. I've seen their Sunday morning panel last year, and for kids, it's fantastic.
Because you had also for retail as well. Because you had Page 45, who took up the room, which they always do. They have done for the last couple of years. When I was last here, wasn't Forbidden Planet here?
They were. Well, 2 years ago they were, but they haven't. They've chosen not to.
They've chosen not to
set up the show. So it's Page 45, but Page 45 it makes perfect sense because they fit in so well with the demographic of people who come here, who want graphic novels, who want to buy European graphic novels, want to buy stuff from Self-Made Hero. I saw that. I didn't realize, but Jason Lucas's Berlin is actually finished. I mean, it's a great series, but I didn't realize I have to pick up the hardback because So the page 45 is such a natural fit for the Lakes because of what they sell and what they do well with.
So it is it's a festival for the people who would go out and buy Grenville.
Yes.
And not necessarily Final Crisis.
Oh, definitely.
That kind of makes sense.
Exactly.
Which makes when people ask if I can recommend Lakes, I can recommend Lakes for sheer quality.
Oh yes.
This is a prestige show.
Yes, that's true.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yes.
So
I would agree with that. I mean, it fits its niche. I don't know any other UK comic show that does what they do in the way that they do it.
Yeah.
Which I think I think that's a good thing. And I think that's a real strength of the show. Sure,
I'll go along with that. For myself, I only got to see one panel because I have only been here today on the Sunday, unfortunately. But I did get to see the great big comic draw, which is where you get a number of artists sat around the theatre section down in the Brewery Arts.
I guess they let the hair down, don't they? They get a chance just to draw, which obviously they love.
You've got 2 drawing tables, and you've got a sofa in the middle. You've got
people shouting out suggestions.
Not this time. And you had Chris Thompson doing an interview and basically moving them around, giving them prompting, and kind of like
they're a lot of fun. Those because they're by the seat of their pants, and they don't know how it's going to go.
Well, the theme was definitely interesting, considering it was the great big zombie draw, which means you did have Charlie Adlard,
of course,
on that panel, and you also had Sean Phillips. You had yourself.
Obviously, he used to do Marvel Zombies many years ago, so no stranger to zombies.
Well, he drew a couple.
Yeah,
he drew a zombie Captain America, drew a zombie Spidey.
Yes.
You also had the father and son team.
Steve McGarry and Luke McGarry.
It was Luke McGarry. He had the son of the pairing, and you also had a Finnish artist whose name
one who played the guitar last year.
He's a rock.
Thomas. I can't remember his name, but he's completely out there. But he's fabulous. He's really
it was really good fun. It was really good fun. It was going to be featuring Mitch Brettweiser,
who sadly couldn't make the show for certain reasons that we may not go into. We'll draw veil over. Or shall we? I was
just going to say. I mean, I'd say Elizabeth Brettweiser. Sadly, Mitch not so sad.
Yes.
Because of his various affiliations.
Yes.
Let's have a look at this. I'm going to show that because I know that there's been some swearing in that, but I am going to show it. It's Solicitor of Smeg. I get what he's saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, he's just complimenting me on my choice of beverage.
Okay.
But no, it was a lot of fun. It was an hour and a half of them drawing, prompting.
Well, to be honest, with great artists like that, I mean, how could you go wrong?
Absolutely. Chris Thompson is always an excellent panel host, bringing out some great stories about their music connections, their music affiliations.
With Charlie and the band.
Absolutely. So how that influences their arts. It was just a lot of fun. It really was. And some cracking pieces have been created out of that. Usually you find that those pieces then go up for auction a little bit down the line to help fund this show to go ahead. Even though
I don't believe they need Arts Council are quite generous with this show.
they keep it very well funded.
Yes, so I think that and it's like a well-oiled machine.
Absolutely,
this show really.
Absolutely. So, final overviews then. Your thoughts, Lakes. What you thought?
Well, blimey, 6 years. You can't knock it. I mean, to produce a show of this quality every year for 6 years, I take my proverbial hat off.
I will.
He'll take his real hat off.
I'll take my hat off.
And it's amazing. I have to say, to put a show of this quality on every single year.
Yeah, it's a show that, considering that I came to the first, my first one of these, the second show they put on, and I did it in the same way I did it today, which is trying to squeeze everything in on Sunday like a complete tit.
And I did do the full show.
And you did the full show.
I always do because
every year I'm going to have to come back and do the full thing and do the whole thing. It's just so long as we don't stay in the hotel that we stayed in.
Oh God, the pub from hell. Oh, but anyway, that's we won't recommend that to people coming to Kendal.
Don't even want to think back on that thing. That was terrible. Okay, right. So, tell you what we will do is we'll now go into and we'll cover the pre-reg badge sale, because that's what everybody is talking about on Q&A. So we will get into that. What we are going to get into is talk about, after the badge sale, we're going to get into Portsmouth Comic Con.
Indeed.
And also Joel did attend New York Comic Con.
I did. So a lot of things from New York.
Well, we'll talk a little bit as a kind of like a mini review, a pocket review of New York, and then we'll get into Portsmouth. But let's get into pre-registration. It is what everyone's talking about on the Q&A. So let's dive into it. It was It wasn't any surprises. At the end of the day, the process that they've got in place right now works. Somebody actually asked me, I think it was one of the Ain't It Cool writers, Glenn Oliver from Ain't It Cool. He actually asked me, is there any other way that they could do this? Any other way that they can make it simpler, easier, less problematic? And I think the current process, the way that it's done, the virtual waiting room for an hour into random selection of badge buying processes is, to my mind, the easiest way and the most democratic way.
Not trial by fire.
It's not, no, because there's no. I can understand people's appeal to kind of do that whole. If we're in the line first, if we've done that, we've made that.
We should have that thing or something.
But at the end of the day, that is what made a little bit of an elitist setup in terms of people kind of like shutting out everybody else, and you also had sites crashing with everyone just diving in at once. This just kind of takes all of that out of the equation and makes it more of a user-friendly situation. I made this statement on my live hangout yesterday when the badge sale was taking place. I do not believe the unofficial blog's diagnosis of badge allocation. I don't believe it's 50%. I believe that this first sale, the pre-registration sale, is designed to be slower, and therefore they are getting through less badges for the same length of time as what the open online would be. So in that regard, I think it's just down to CCI's policy of trying to get as many badges into the hands of people who have not been before.
No.
So, but these are like the pre-registration. This is the returning registration people, and it went. I mean, I did a poll and just tried to find out how everyone had done. I ran that poll at 50 minutes into the hour, and the final badge sold at 57 minutes. So it was all done within an hour.
That's pretty impressive.
It's not too shabby at all, is it?
How does that compare to previous years?
No, you're looking about the same kind of time. Okay. But I believe the general consensus on social media was the badges, or the people being accepted into the pre-registration sessions was happening slower. It was going slower.
Yes.
And I believe it is deliberate. I believe that's just a way to kind of
control the room a little.
To control the flow. Absolutely.
Well, that makes sense, I guess.
So I think so. I think that's the way that it's been set up. However, the way that the whole thing is done is basically, just to explain to Joel,
it's been a while.
It's been a while. The doors open using a link that's placed on your member ID or via an email, which you enter an hour before the actual.
And is it a single link for everybody, or is it a personalized link?
Oh, it's a personalized code.
Yes.
Sent to a link.
Oh, I see.
So you are then entered into a waiting room, and then you are.
So it's kind of like a virtual raffle almost.
Yeah, it's in a way. Something like that. The thing was, the allocations as provided by the poll, and I got something like 80 people voting on the poll.
Yes.
It was 33% people getting Fortnite Plus preview, which then it kind of like dropped rapidly, unfortunately, and it went to something like
Sunday ticket only, or
no, it went to I'm tell you what, I'm going to quickly find this, because I wanted to try and bring this up because I found the results interesting. It was to talk about the way that I was hearing about any faults, any issues with browsers. Those I weren't hearing as many of. Yes, there were one or two people that were talking about the spinning blue wheel freezing.
Yes,
but to be fair, it wasn't that many. Here we go. Oh, right. So no, there were 30%, but no, this is the right one. So 4-day plus preview, 5%. Okay. 4-day, 35%.
Okay.
3 days or 2 days, 22%.
Yes.
Still waiting and getting nothing, 40%.
Wow. So it's about 40% almost of the people who are still waiting to get their tickets.
Who will now have to go into the open online.
Okay.
Which they'll have to do and go in with the grand melee.
Yes.
When that happens. So let's have a quick look at a couple of comments. Solicitor of Smeg, they tried another way. It went like this, tried to cut Epic out by doing it themselves. You're absolutely right.
Or rather than using an external agency.
Yes, it was supposed to be using the member ID pages.
Yes.
Very much like they currently sell WonderCon.
Yes.
It works for WonderCon because there isn't the
smaller shows,
the demand as implemented by San Diego.
Yes.
But that's what they wanted to do for last year. They tried it a number of times, and it technically failed every single time, which is why they returned
crash the site, basically.
Yeah, and they returned to Epic. It was the only way they could actually run the badge sale, which is why it was held so late last year.
Okay.
Okay. I do think a lot of people wanted all days since it is the 50th. You're absolutely right. I mean, yeah, I can appreciate this is an anniversary one. It's going to be a big one, and therefore it's going to get a lot of
extra
attention. Absolutely. Jason Kremen, our group, 312. Yeah, 3 out of 12. Our group, 3 out of 12, got everything we wanted, including me. The rest got either Thursday or Sunday only. Definitely need to hustle during open registration. I think that seems to be a little bit of a recurring thing from people that I've been speaking to. Solicitor of Smeg, our group got everything, but we're only going Saturday this year, so take that with a grain of salt. I can kind of understand why people are wanting the Saturday.
Because the biggest day of the show and everything.
Will be back.
Yes.
Marvel will be back this year.
Oh, yes.
So they are wanting...
It's not a D23 year.
It's not a D23 year.
Which is probably why Marvel will be back.
Yeah. Well, and you've got that, and you've got Walking Dead. You've got a couple of people who weren't in 2018.
End of Game of Thrones.
Yes,
probably.
Yeah. I know that Leonard had a bit of a technical issue, which is a bit of a weird one, which is why she's currently waiting on speaking to CCI, because on her actual badge buying, it showed that it had both had been registered. On the final summary page, it only showed her badge had been cleared by the credit card, but not her daughter's.
Really?
Except she went onto a member ID, and both are registered as paid for.
How bizarre!
So yeah,
there's a weird glitch.
There's something going on there. Leanne, I hope you get that sorted. I know you're waiting on CCI. I think it's going to be tomorrow by the time they're going to get to have a look. So let's have a look at this. It was a good idea to do that poll. My group of 8 only got 1 in to be able to buy 3 badges with preview night. Congratulations, well done. Considering that, they sold out not relatively quickly. I believe that the Friday and Saturday went at the same time.
Oh, really?
And they went at, I believe, 37 minutes.
Into this
process. It took a while for that to happen. They announced, D23 takes a few weeks after Comic-Con.
So it is this coming year. Okay. But you still think Marvel will be back?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Even though we've had but Marvel, but we will have. Avengers will have been out.
No, I'll tell you why. I genuinely believe that Marvel holds Hall H as the
sacrosanct place.
It's the reason why it has worked as well as it has done. I mean, the first panel that they did, I believe it was Ballroom 20. It was for Iron Man.
Yes.
No one knew what the hell to expect. At which point it blew out of the water from there on in.
Yeah, I did some stuff around.
So they kind of recognise.
They owe a debt. That place.
I'd go along with that. I'd go along with that.
So sorry to change.
Go.
Relating to San Diego, Dark Phoenix has a summer release now. Is it post? I know it's slightly troubled. Is it post San Diego, that release, or is it pre? I'm just trying to think. If Marvel are there, what will they be promoting? Because
I think it's just kind of like.
Is it just we're here? We're back.
I think it's there. We're back. Let's wrap up Phase 3 and look to the future.
Yeah, interesting.
And at the end of the day, it'll be kind of like the closure of their
new phase,
that 10 years celebration. I think it's going to be that kind of like wrapping up.
Okay.
The actual badge sale itself, I believe, went as smooth as it could do, and was it was a smooth process. And when we talk about how that could then reflect on what the open online badge sale is going to be like, I genuinely believe that yes, CCI would love to put it on their own website and fold it into the member ID. But I don't think it is. At the end of the day, this works, and they know it works.
And they've done this for a number of years.
And they've done it for this is year 4 or 5 with this process, they know it works.
If it's not broke, don't fix it. One of those
pretty
things.
much. And they don't. I think they genuinely want to put it back to the original timetable, which means we'll be looking at the Open Online within the next either 3 to 4 weeks or very early beginning of next year.
Yes.
So it's going to be it's a solid setup. Angela Copley, I hit the final button to buy and heard the sold out tweet for Friday and Saturday. Talk about under the wire. Yeah. It was certainly
pretty tight.
It was a tight one. It was very, very strange that they turned around and sent out tweets along the lines of Friday and Saturday are running low, and then that stayed up and in place for about 10-15 minutes, and then they announced that they'd sold out. So strange. Karen Session, first time my Friends of Comic Con buying group, everyone didn't get something. Whoa, okay. That I'm kind of noticing as well that I think there's just a lot of groups that I mean, the whole idea of a badge team is the thing that kind of really helps your odds in getting your badges. I'm finding it very weird to hear a lot of stories of badge teams failing, or badge teaming failing. It's very, very strange, but whether it is just look at it's just you just look at the odds and you just look at the numbers and you just go, this may be just the year that doesn't work. The for example, the UK attendees group, we have had a raise in numbers of general membership purely because not only, like you say, it is the 50th anniversary, so a lot of people are returning who haven't been going for the last couple of years perhaps, and this is a way for them to get back into the saddle. And also people who did go last year, we had a lot of fun. So we had a good bunch of Brits that went out and had a lot of bonding, and it was a really good team effort. But when you have more people taking place, it's just going to kind of work.
Do you think that well, it's a sort of related question in a way. Do you think that New York, do you think that San Diego are, well, not being more aggressive, but do you think that there is, in the back of their mind, that there is this, I don't really want to call it, because obviously they're both two huge shows and they're both great in different ways, but do you think that the increased numbers for New York has maybe increased the pressure a little bit on San Diego to change up the formula a little? Or,
well, I mean,
how do they see it? And obviously because Reed obviously is such a huge company.
Somebody asked me this yesterday, and I thought it was a bloody good question, which was, if San Diego moved, or if you couldn't go to San Diego, would you still go? And also, if San Diego stopped, what would then happen?
Yes.
Would it
someone else take its place?
That's the thing. I believe in our current fandom culture, it's a balloon. It's oxygen in a balloon. It would just it would fill anywhere.
Yes.
New York Comic Con we'll get into.
Sorry, I know I was getting ahead of myself.
No, we are.
I thought it was interesting just to talk a little bit about the contrast between the two shows, and obviously they're both very aware of each other, but I just wonder how the dynamic works now between the two shows, because,
well, I mean, we keep hearing San Diego being mentioned as the show which has reached its absolute limit.
Yes.
Personally, I don't believe that's true. At the end of the day, if we do get the extension from the convention center, that's going to help
increase numbers,
move bodies around, and they are taking over more and more venues around town, really expanding the footprint of the convention in San Diego. So, I mean, I don't know if anyone's going to agree with me. Those who did go in 2018, it was insanely busy, but it didn't feel,
because they spread the people out a bit more.
Because everything is just nicely enough space was. It wasn't utterly crammed. Correct. It didn't feel like everyone was just whacking each other in the elbow.
Yes.
Was New York Comic Con like that?
Well,
how close? Well, let's
start now.
Let's go.
Well, New York was in. I think I have to say I've been going to New York. I went the first year in 2006, and I think I've missed 2. So I've been to something like 7 or 8 of the 10 or 11. And Thursday's normally a quieter day. As with San Diego, they don't have the preview night, but Thursday is like a preview day, so you get the taste of things to come. But I have to say that Thursday was insane.
Really?
The amount of numbers, the amount of bodies on the floor, it was huge. I talked to some publishers and some other traders, and they said that yes, it was much busier. I mean, Saturday perhaps was a little busier. I mean, New York, they said they got 180,000 people. That's the official. I'm not sure if that's official verified numbers, but they're now saying that they're the biggest US English language comic show. But again, we're not privy to these exact numbers, so we can't possibly comment.
The thing is.
There is a political reason for releasing numbers.
You can't have San Diego Comic-Con saying that, because at the end of the day, they're a non-profit charity. You can have someone like New York Comic-Con and Repop saying that. They're a fucking business. They're a corporate entity. They have to say things like that.
But they can say that, but we can't comment as to the veracity of the numbers. When
San Diego doesn't release theirs.
We're not privy to the actual numbers that they've got, but what I can say is it was huge and it was massive, and it's grown every single year. And New York have this thing, they've got the Javits Center, they've got Madison Square Garden, they've got a place called Hammerstein Ballroom, and they've got another place.
Did you actually go to any of those?
I went to one of the panels at the Hammerstein. I got to go to the American Gods panel with Neil Gaiman and the cast, and that was because I got wristbanded into that.
Yes, that was the panel which I played on my hospital radio show last week.
Oh, did you?
And like a complete idiot, I didn't actually vet it for language first.
Oh,
that was a mistake.
There was a little bit of colourful language. There's a little bit of colourful, but no, it's I mean, Reader. When they're such a huge company and
they know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
They
do London Book Fair. They've done New York for many years. They do BA in America. Obviously, they do shows around the world. They are, as a huge corporate entity, I
wouldn't even say it's an argument that they are the biggest con.
Oh, there's no question in the world.
Yeah.
English language, you can't. There's no one else.
North America go. I still think that San Diego pips it, but you'd like
a little. But obviously, you've got C2E2 as well, which is Reed. Yep. So they're coming hot on their heels, I would say.
Sure, absolutely. New York Comic Con was way different than my attendance in 2015. Says Karma Savage.
Yes.
Michael P. New York Comic Con floor was insane.
It was insane. Wow. Artist Alley was.
What was Artist Alley like?
It was interesting. I mean, last year they moved Artist Alley because there's building work going on in the Javits, and they used to have a window, and there's no window now. But although Artist Alley was nuts, and they closed off one of the escalators because there was too many crowds, and have that in San Diego. So for health and safety, you had to go round one of the other escalators. But Artist Alley, again, if you took Artist Alley out and just had it as a show in its own right, you'd have some of the best comic artists and creators in the world.
They are. You've also got the expansion that's happening.
Oh, I know.
And the building that when
they are. Yeah, I know they're expanding.
I mean, we've got another 2 years on that build, and when it happens, it's going to be absolutely huge. I mean, I think. If they didn't show up at Thought Bubble this year, I'd be very surprised, because I think they would have been looking at that footprint
as a model.
Well,
we are as well. So I guess it's
Thought Bubble is something. It's just
the marquee model is brilliant.
Yes,
it's a brilliant idea, and it really works. And what I like about Thought Bubble is that you have a marquee. You have like indie guys, but they'll put them in with the big US guests and the big British guests. I think that's fantastic, because otherwise you've got a tent which is just filled with lots of indie guys, which are great, but in terms of footfall, it's really clever to say you're going to go and visit this guy from Sheffield, but you've also got, Jason Aaron, and you've also got, Brian K. Vaughan in the same tent. It's fabulous. Yeah. And it's very fair. It's quite democratizing, because otherwise you get like a ghetto.
Is that what you get in New York?
Well,
or is it more?
It's more of a mix.
Superstars,
but there is I'm afraid that the superstars get the prime location. So when you had Miller against the belt against the wall, you had Miller and Jock and Scott Snyder and some of the bigger names, and the indie guys are put as you come in. So I'm afraid that. But I mean,
does that make a more? Because I mean, the one thing that you can say about Thought Bubble is that whole democratization system makes it more of a scattershot setup.
It does.
Whereas with the New York Comic Con,
where people are,
and there's more of a linear through line, a narrative. I love using this.
That's all right.
This word is in a story, a narrative,
an arc, perhaps an artistic arc,
from A to B as you move through the floor.
I suppose.
Fair enough. Okay, we've got ourselves Solicitor of Smeg. They might not. No progress on convention expansion. Might push them to move it, but where the only viable place is Vegas, and there's no.
Are we talking about SD now?
I think they are talking about SD. I'm sorry, but if it
that Vegas rumor has been going around for years.
Yes,
surely.
And I'm sorry, but if it
happens, you won't be going anymore.
I wouldn't be going. Not a chance. A hotel in.
But surely it's worth. I can't see the local council because it's now
because the thing is
money coming into the economy.
They've got the hotel spaces. But feel like something that you could go from.
Well, it's like Westworld, isn't it? I've never been to Las Vegas, but
Leon D would love to go to New York Comic Con, but with daughter heading to college next year, don't know if I could do
it's a
New
great
York
show
by myself, which is interesting because Michael P is saying it's a bit of a zoo.
Yeah,
and New York Comic Con, New York.
Oh, the traffic!
City
It is frightening.
Insane.
It is. It's just that city is just not designed for the amount of traffic that it gets in terms of cars, and to get from one end, it's frightening. It's awful. So you do a lot of walking, which I don't mind. And
sure.
The weather was it's weird. New York in the old days, it used to be in February and it was bitterly cold. Now it's in October and it's usually baking hot. But the aircon does work.
Oh my God.
Thank God.
Thank
the aircon works.
No, we had Mike Armstrong on the show 2 weeks ago, and he was just saying, well, number one, if that is the one thing that goes wrong, then no, they just said, look, I'd be happy if that was the one thing that went wrong. But yes, we want the aircon to work.
It's essential.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom Savage, a repop definitely ups the entertainment aspect of a pop culture convention for the attendees.
Well, they've been doing that the last few years. Well, there's more. I mean, I would say that it's not film so much, but TV. You had Daredevil.
Well, that we had at San Diego as well.
No, but New York started life as a trad comic show. And there's a lot more TV now. So you've got Daredevil, Good Omens, American Gods, Star Trek Discovery. It's interesting. They don't focus on film, I guess, because of the time of year, because the big movies of the summer. But they're very canny with TV, and they always have a really strong TV. And also you had Outlander. I forgot about that. They had Stars had a booth, which I went round, and there was like a lift you could go down for American Gods.
Whoa.
So I have to say that TV presence, and also Deadly Class, which is out to next year. The Wes Craig and Rick Remendez things. So they were very, very good for TV, and it was. Yeah, it was very impressive, the TV presence at the show.
Fair enough. Leon D, can't imagine trying to get around New York in a wheelchair.
Oh, God. You mean what, the show?
Yeah.
It is a challenge, I have to say, even as a,
because it was certainly a question that she put about,
it's a very fair question.
Lakes, about
lakes
accessibility. Lakes would be a challenge. There are a couple of venues
I'm afraid that New York would be tricky.
Yeah,
because there are lifts, and that's a very fair point. Yeah.
Karma Savage, New York City vehicle traffic was a nightmare, as the traffic, and then there were no limes, birds, electrical scooters, which I loved about San Diego this year.
Oh, that's interesting. So I didn't,
and
you came off the scooter, didn't you? Damn you! I'm sorry.
Everyone
you shouldn't have put it up.
That's what I mean.
But I have to say that as your sort of tribute to some mothers to have them, I have to say I think, Leonard, it was a very touching tribute to some mothers to have them.
If someone was going to fall off one of those things, it was going to be me. Come on.
Well, that's true. Ice or scooter. Or just keep away from them in future. I think it's probably the...
Well, yeah. Then it's when you hear about the staff shortages up at the Scripps Hospital, and you think, it's probably down to not having enough to handle all of those injuries. New York City bike rental was just not enough. Okay, Sarita P, one of the down points of New York City or New York Comic Con, is that you're seeing more and more artists charging for autographs.
I'm afraid that is true, but that's not just New York, though. Presumably,
yes,
that's a common thing.
This came up. I was speaking on Twitter this week to Declan Shelby.
Yes,
and he's really not happy about.
No, this, I know. He actually talked to me about that as well.
Really,
he was really disappointed. That a lot of people were charging.
Yeah, the thing was, I found it interesting because, as people know, I went to MCM in Scotland, in Glasgow, at the end of last month, and they had Donny Cates and they had Brian Azarillo. They were managed by Comic Artist Pro. Is it? Yeah.
No, it's I can't remember their name. It's an American guy. He's an American manager. Yeah.
It was interesting because it's the same company that had a booth just in the illustrator section of the just outside the Artist Alley in San Diego,
and in New York. They have a big bank of people in New York.
And they had Tom King on there. They had Mitch Gerrards on there, and they were charging $5 a autograph. Here in the UK, it was £5 an autograph.
Wow.
I took over my entire run of Mr. Miracle and The Vision. And when it suddenly hit me,
it's going to cost you like $60 or something.
It was going to cost me. We're talking 12 books.
I know it's more, isn't it?
Well, 12 books in Vision.
60. So it's $120
per
run. Per run. Wow.
They came home unsigned. That gives you an idea. But this has been organised by a company. I really like the model where people put tip jars down.
That's a nice idea.
For either Hero Initiative, or for the Comic Defense Legal Fund,
or something worthy,
and then you put in what you
feel you can afford. That's different.
I like that. I like that.
That's a different
to
thing.
actually put it into the hands of an agent.
No,
that rankles.
Yeah, no, and it's a dangerous precedent.
Yeah,
and it's, as you say, it seems to be becoming. I mean, we at our show, I don't think people charge for autographs. At least I hope they didn't.
Yeah,
I don't think they did,
to be heading in that direction. But it's like you say, it's something that when people who are watching our show starting to notice it.
It's obviously becoming a problem.
It is becoming an issue.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
Let's have a look. So, Lister Smeg, I got swiped by so many of those scooter riders. By the end of the con, I was daydreaming of smacking them with a chair, WWE style. I can listen. I totally understand and justify that.
Yes.
Michael P. I won a poster that was signed by American Gods and Neil Gaiman.
Oh yeah, I tried to get that for Mr. Serby. But unfortunately, our mutual friend.
So there you go.
There's the man, but I don't feel bad because Mark doesn't need another bloody poster anyway. He's got enough.
Good point. Dan Berry, comic sketch art. There you go. That's
well done. Thank you, Dan. Yes, that's it.
It's Dan. He knows this.
He does. He knows his stuff. He's on the ball.
Yeah. Karma Savage. I must also give a shout out to Reed Pop's media press organisation. Very impressive. And Entertainment Studios supplied wrap-ups of their panels of the day with professional photos and video clips. Handy to have.
Well, they were. I mean, we use them a lot. I mean, I have to couch this rather carefully. I didn't get into all of the press rooms that I wanted to, which I thought was disappointing because we've supported the show since it started. So there were things like Discovery and American Gods. I mean, I understand, having run a show now, I understand there are a hell of a lot of concerns. And with a huge show, the concerns get amplified and the people have to deal with get even bigger. So I do sympathise, but I found it frustrating. I couldn't get into the Star Trek Discovery or the Good Omens press rooms. But I understand why, but I find it frustrating. That's all I will say. I'm not going to... But they you know, the press stuff is run well. Reed know their stuff, and I certainly wouldn't. I wouldn't be saying anything negative about them.
Other conventions would be good to learn from some of their... some of the things they do. Yeah, I'd go along that.
You know.
I'll tell you what then, we're into our final kind of 10 minutes of the show then. So let's talk about, because you've alluded to it several times throughout the course of the last 45 minutes, about the show that you run.
Yes.
Or you help run or you run?
Well, it's a bit of both, really. I mean, we provide the guests, we run the programming. We obviously promote it via Tripwire and other places. So we're an integral part. We're not the only part because the guys who run the Guildhall do a phenomenal job. You know, ticket sales and everything from running the floor to the team is amazing. The marketing, you've seen the marketing pack that Sam, who works for the Guildhall, put together, and the team is amazing. Okay. So I would, you know, I certainly wouldn't be taking sole credit for it. Fair
enough. So we are talking about Portsmouth Comic Con.
Yes.
This is a show that is going to be held at the Portsmouth Guildhall in May next year.
Indeed.
And this is the second year.
It is.
Last year went down phenomenally well.
Yes.
This is where, Andrew English reminds me that Doctor Who's about to start and the viewer count suddenly
it's going to drop.
It just tanks like a bugger. But okay, second year, ramping off a very, very successful year one. So, tell us about that first year. Tell us about how that has informed what you're doing with the second year.
Well, the first year was amazing because we've never done a show before. Obviously, we've run the website for a long time. We were approached by the people who run the Guildhall, and so they wanted to put a show together because they have... It's the premier venue in Portsmouth. They have people like Robert Plant, some amazing comedy people. They have a classic car show. They have a cheese show, really bizarre things like tattoo. They have everything, as you would with a venue. And the first show... God, we got 5,000 people, which for a first UK show is phenomenal. We were
it helps when you're the guest list that you had.
Walter Simonson, of course,
absolutely.
Gene Harr, Sean Marstonborough, Carly Hamner, Vince, Frank Quietly, Sean Phillips, Chris Weston, Lawrence Campbell. So it was a real eye opener because ticket sales were sluggish to begin with, but then they really ramped up. We realised that with a lot of shows, there's that 3-month window just before the show where people go, wow, I want to go, because you know it's not fair. You can't expect people to plan 8 months ahead of where they, unless it's like a US show. So a lot of people plan quite not far ahead. So like 2 to 3 months before the show, and suddenly it really ramped up.
Okay, and
it was just a real eye opener, and everyone was fantastic. The guests were great, Walt and Louise Simonson, and we were very, very proud. And the panels I did, the Frank Quietly panel, the Walt Simonson panel, from Sean Phillips, it was incredibly well attended, and there was a real buzz. And we got families in, and it felt very inclusive, which we wanted it to be. And
was there any bits of that first show that didn't work?
Well, there probably were little things. I mean, we did this thing where we gave tickets to sell to UK comic shops. I think we did that probably too close to the actual event, and we might do that with a little bit more. And it's no fault of the retailers, but the logistics didn't quite work.
Okay.
So we might have to rethink that. Some of the celebrity stuff didn't quite work. We had a few celebrities in, and they didn't quite get the numbers. I mean, that wasn't...
Because I know that when you first pitched Portsmouth to me, that you wanted to make it kind of like ice, like here, something that was about comics.
Yes.
And make it as a like you call it a trad comic show.
Yes.
But you then did have to almost on the insistence of the Guildhall
a little bit, yes,
to kind of compromise
with some of the celebrity
bring
stuff.
in the celebrity stuff.
It didn't really work, fortunately. So we're not going to be revisiting that much. It's going to be mainly. I mean,
did they recognise that was a problem?
Yes, they did, and we've talked about it. And so year two is very much a traditional comic show. So we've got Roy Thomas locked down, Steve Englehart, Tom Coker.
Let's slow down. So
Roy Thomas, who of course is the man who used to write Conan, and the man who was editor-in-chief of Marvel, who was arguably after Stanley the Mr. Marvel. After Stanley, he is the man.
Yep.
You know. So there's him, and with Conan coming back to Marvel next year, it's really interesting. Sorry, Dark Horse. So we got Roy Thomas, Batman legend, who wrote one of the most acclaimed of all time with Marshall Rogers and Terry Austin, and he's also American Defenders, and again his CV is as long. A fabulous man, and we're really proud to have him.
Excellent.
Tom Coker, who's one of the younger artists, but blimey, the Black Monday Murders. I can't even remember the other work he's done, but he's a phenomenal artist, very talented, a great guy. So we got him. We are finalising some other American guests, so we can't talk about them yet, but we've got some great British creators. We've got Sean Phillips back, Lawrence Campbell, Chris Weston, Gary Erskine.
Well, let's talk about that, because we talked about it very briefly when we were walking around today. Yes. And I spoke to a number of convention people who go, how important is it? How essential is it now to get American and international guests at your show? Is it necessary?
It's not just necessary. It's
essential?
Key. I think for our show, I think that without it, it just becomes a lesser show, sadly. I mean, people expect to have American guests, and if they don't have them, then they are disappointed. For whatever, for good or for bad, that's people come to an American comic show, they want to have American guests.
But there's some UK shows that recognise and endorse the UK talent, and recognise that the UK has a rich history, a rich talent pool of people that not only got pulled over to the US and made that impression on the industry, but also to this day still have this massive resonance.
Well, I'm not diminishing for one second the legacy of scores of UK comic creators, many of whom will be at our show, but I still think that for us, just speaking about Portsmouth, we need to have American guests just to give it that extra veneer of, I don't know what you call it.
Okay.
Just clout, I guess, just to say that we have American guests as an attraction, because, Dave Gibbons lives in St Albans, and if people live in Hertfordshire, they can see him anytime that they want. And so I'm not diminishing the UK legacy because it's huge, but I think we need to have American guests.
Fair enough. In terms of how it's all coming together, how close are you to actually nailing everything down, or is it going to be continually kind of wheeling and dealing up to the final? It's
a little bit of both. I mean, we've sold out.
You've got your.
I know my black tea.
You're not Coca-Cola there.
We have sold out of the main hall.
Okay.
Which is we're very proud of that. So what we've done is following Thought Bubble's lead, we're building a fixed marquee.
Oh wow!
Outside in the square, we'll accommodate another 40 or 50 traders.
Okay.
So that's allowed us to increase the size of the show. We're going to be doing a 80th anniversary of Batman exhibition, like we did 80th anniversary of Superman this year.
Nice.
We'll have a Batmobile, of course. The people.
Can you say which one?
To be confirmed. It will be a Batmobile from one of the popular films featuring the character. It might be one of the Keaton ones. I'm not sure yet, but it's going to be a really cool vehicle. I mean, who doesn't like a Batmobile?
Fair enough.
So there'll be that. There will be an awards ceremony for the first time. There'll be the Tripwire Awards on the Saturday night. which will probably have, there'll be an award ceremony that lasts about an hour, and our colleague Jasper Bach will be presenting that, and there'll be drinks and nibbles, and so we'll be officially launching that probably in the next month or so.
Okay.
And we may even have a dinner with an artist to be confirmed.
Okay.
Like they did with Walt Simonson at San Diego. So people will be paying for a ticket, and they'll get a sketch, they'll get a couple of trades, and they'll get the chance to hang out for an evening with this particular artist.
Okay, fair enough. In the ticket sales, I know that the tickets on sale now.
Oh yes.
Okay. Have the tickets stayed the same price? Is it something that you have to?
They've gone up a tiny amount. I say like 50p or something. They've had to go up a little bit. Okay. Just to cover ongoing costs for the venue and things. But we're still cheaper than some other shows.
Oh, I'm just wondering if it is something that kind of reflects on the way that a convention is put together. That a lot of conventions are having to ramp up their prices because more talent are picking the shows that they're going to and charging appropriately.
Yes,
does that make sense?
I am aware of that, and I can't really comment publicly about that. But I would say that you may be onto something.
Fair enough. Okay, it's a statement about comic conventions and the current very busy landscape of comic conventions. But it says a lot that you are trying to do something new down on the south coast. You're trying to do something that's distinctive, to do something that is comics led,
of course,
which is that's
very important for us.
Yeah, good.
Comics is at the heart of our show, even if we have other people.
I find it interesting that some pure comic conventions are on the
having a renaissance,
real renaissance. I mean, I know that you'd be more than happy to have UCAC back, and so
well, that was fun. I used to love UCAC. It was.
And have those kind of shows have a resurgence. We're kind of seeing that.
I think you're right. And, it's an interesting time.
And it's also an interesting blend with the US model as well, with the various ways that they do panels and the way they do.
I mean, I guess it's US versus UK. Do you think it's still radically different, the two shows?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. You think that the UK is becoming more like the US?
Yeah, I don't think there's this kind of like melding of minds. I don't think there's this kind of like the meshing.
It's just
I think it's more the US influence onto the UK conventions. And I think the UK are starting to recognize that the model that has been put together by New York Comic Con
can work in the UK
and can work well. But I think where it gets interesting is that here in the UK, the predominant convention is your photo ops and your auto shows.
That's very true.
So now it's a case of
how do we cultivate an increased comic reading audience to come to the show?
I don't actually think you can do a comic convention which will blend the two.
No,
because
it doesn't quite work.
No, because it's a different.
It will alienate
it's a different mentality.
Yes, that's
true. It's a different mentality. But I think the idea of I went to ICE for the first time 2 years ago, and not ICE, sorry, for MCon. And I was sat in front of the panel host, the panel, and there was a very small audience in the room for these things. And at which point I turned around and said to the people that were there, why have you chosen this? And they said, well, I can either go and queue up and speak to the person for 5 minutes, or I can sit here and actually speak to these people and listen to them talk
for an hour
to 45 minutes, and it's not going to cost me any more or any less.
No.
Yeah. Angela Copley, some of the guys from American Gods were at Dragon Con. They were so funny and sweet. It was a popular table in the walk.
Well, I hear that Dragon Con is supposed to be an amazing show.
Well,
I've never been.
I
think that mixes TV and film and comics.
I would like to go. Well, I'd like to go to Dragon Con because it's held in a hotel.
Yes.
It's held in 3 hotels that are connected.
Yes.
The cosplay apparently is off the scale.
That's what I hear.
And on an evening, because all the panel stuff and all the basic con is held inside the hotels, everyone gets absolutely shit-faced. Yes. And it gets wild. That's what I've heard.
I hear that.
I'm up for it.
I heard somebody describe it as being like dusk till dawn with cosplay. Somebody told me that a few years ago, which sounds like it could be a fun weekend.
I am down with that.
Atlanta's quite a nice city, so
well, I wouldn't mind checking it out. Cool. So I know that people are wanting to get off and watch Doctor Who, and we're wanting to get off
and have a
couple more beers. We have got into the end of our hour, so thank you very much indeed, Joel, for joining us.
My pleasure as always.
Tell people where people can find out more about Portsmouth Comic Con, and yeah, where's the best place?
Well, I guess the best place to go is the Portsmouth website, which is portsmouthcomiccon with 2Cs.com, where they can buy tickets. They can buy tickets now, and there are arranged tickets available. And of course, if they wanted to check out tripwiremagazine.co.uk for all of the news about Portsmouth and many other genre things, as well as this Fine Fellows website, they would be more than welcome to stop by. And we're very excited. Second year, you know, we're trying to ramp things up and trying to do things that we did well as we did for the first year, which is a challenge, but we feel like we're up to it. There's some great talent out there, both UK and US and European as well. We are getting some European guests. I'm taking a trip to Italy at the end of this month to try and secure a couple more European guests. So we're very, very excited.
Cool. Final comments. Karma Savage. Dragon Con is held between 5 venues. Come on over, Leonard. Dragon Con 2019. Angela Copley, ask my husband about Dragon Con and Jello shots.
Well, that sounds very enchanting.
I think we will leave it.
We might draw a veil over that.
We'll leave it on there. It is. Thank you very much, Indeed, for joining us. As always, you can keep it up to date with what we're up to on the website. At the moment, An Englishman in San Diego is still kind of up and running, but to be honest, we are now posting over at the Convention Collective. We are posting on 3 sites, sub-sites on there, which is Sandbox, which is our pop culture roundup, curated by Dan Berry. We also have the Mark Serby Experience.
It's always an experience.
Always an experience. So he's posting his things. He's adding stuff to it as we go over the next couple of weeks. And you've got An Englishman in San Diego, which is where you'll be able to find this podcast. Do take care. Enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend. You can, of course, follow myself on social media at Englishman SDCC, anywhere on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, etc. Where can people find you, John?
We can find me. I have 2 Twitter accounts just to make life even more interesting. You have Joel Meadows 1, and you have Real Tripwire as well. So feel free to follow me on either or both.
There you go. And of course, if you want to support the Hangout and to support what we do, allow us to go to more of these shows and bring you the shows direct from there. Do support us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/EnglishmanSDCC. We do our best to provide more exclusive content, and yes, we will be bringing live streamed content from MCM Comic Con in 2 weeks' time. I'm also hoping to bring some live stream content on Friday coming as I head to Destination Star Trek in Birmingham. So that will all be going up on the Patreon page. Go to patreon.com/EnglishmanSDCC. Thank you very much indeed. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And from us on Talkin Con, a cup of tea with An Englishman in San Diego. We'll see you soon.
Goodbye.
Take care.